Hello and welcome to another episode of Minecraft tutorials with flying magpies. Now, I haven't done one of these in a little while, so I'm probably a little bit inexperienced in some of these things, but I'm back and I'm ready to do a tutorial video. Now, if you look below me, if I can go into first person, there we go. So if you look below me, I've started creating a couple of these crop farms, and so this is what the tutorial is going to be on today. I've actually been doing a little bit of testing as to whether the farmer needs a bed, which he doesn't. As you can see, there's no bed in here. What I actually need for beetroot, because I haven't done beetroot in a long time, and the main reason for that is because beetroot, you couldn't actually trade beetroot for anything, so it would just sit there. You'd use it for maybe red dye, but then I always had overproductive iron farms anyway. I've also been trying to just see if you can split this thing in two for another reason, and that was to see if, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. If I can get myself out, there we go. So let's just cover up the hole. So anyway, as I was saying, I was also testing to see if this villager would actually farm correctly, and some of my earlier tests actually seemed to say that the farmer would stick around the one composter, and then, so if it was over here, the crops over here would tend not to get harvested. But I've been letting this go for about half an hour or so, and it seems to be working pretty well. I'm not sure if it's absolutely necessary to have the 4 composters. The farmer does seem to go around to each of them, and in a minute he should start harvesting these, as you can see there. But I think there's enough flying around. Once I can find the exit hole, there it is, I can start getting work on a tutorial on this. And this is actually chunk aligned. You can see I've got a chunk visualizer on this thing. It's all chunk aligned, and it can be stacked. It's actually a 15 by 15 square, not a 16 by 16, but I'll explain that more as I go. So I'll be teaching you how to do the split one as well as the combined one. This, and for both, for beetroot, for beetroot, for carrots, for wheat, for potatoes, and for bread. So most of them are, quite a few of them are the same, but there's subtle differences in each of them, which I'll explain as I go along. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so let's get into the first part of the tutorial. Now, we want to create ourselves a 15 by 15 square. So as you can see in this one, the chunk is just outlined in the red and the blue. The chunk is, of course, 16 by 16 squares, and these glass boxes are 15 by 15 squares, meaning the inside is actually 14 by 14. You could, of course, make it larger than the chunk. This design is specifically chunk aligned, in case you wanted to make it chunk aligned. And the reason why it's not 16 by 16 is that it actually makes a nice, I forget the word exactly, but it makes a nice look on the inside here. So if you look in the 3 squares in the middle, which will be important later, it's exactly 5 blocks in each direction, in each compass direction. So that's the main reason why it's chunk aligned. Anyway, it's 14 by 14 chunk aligned. Anyway, so the first bit is to put in water sources. So we want to count 3 squares from the corner, and the 4th one along is your water source. You can cover it with a half slab, or you can just put the composter on top of it. Either will work. So if we go from there, 1, 2, 3, once again the water, and I'll put half slabs on top. 1, 2, 3, 4 water, half slab, and the same here. That's not what I wanted. 1, 2, 3, water and half slab. Half slab. There we go. Next you would want to put these composters in, and I'm going to make it clear now, this is the design that does not have the split in the middle. I'll do the split in the middle in the second half of the video. So this is for this half over here, specifically for carrots and potatoes. So once we've done that, we find a center square, which is another 2 corner blocks from the water source, and dig out your 9 squares. And you want to leave the middle one in the middle. You now want some fences to go all the way around in the center. And before you do that, you do want to get a villager in the center. So since I have creative mode, I'm just going to spawn a villager in. Not like that though. Let's just get rid of this guy by killing him with a hoe. And there we go. So we dump a villager in there. It doesn't matter what kind he is, but I think that because of the composters around, he's going to turn into a farmer. As I say, it doesn't really matter. From there, we just need to hoe everything in this box. So I'll just quickly do that and come back when I've got that done. And we're back, and we can see this is now fully all hooked up with all the tilled dirt. Now the last bit we need to do is dump a villager in, and hopefully he's going to turn into a farmer, and there we go. So when we're done that, we want to make sure his inventory is fully full of one type of crop, in this case carrots, but you can fill it with potatoes as well. I'm not quite sure why he's not picking up the stuff, but I think he was just moving away. Anyway, so once he is finished picking up all the stuff, he should start planting, and there you go, you can see this is planting. So this design is specifically for potatoes and carrots, because once this villager starts harvesting, he's going to start throwing food at this villager, and hence why you've got these 8 squares below to catch the food. You can put hoppers, you can put water sources under here in order to allow the food to get taken away. Now, one thing I have found with this design, and it is going to apply to all the designs with the composter, is that the villager tended to hang around one composter. However, after I left it run for about half an hour or so, the villager tended to roam all over the place. So this design is suitable for carrots and potatoes. Now, the slight edit, what I'm going to do is basically copy this into the other side and show you the slight changes for beetroot, wheat, and carrots. Beetroot and wheat, specifically wheat, not bread. Okay, and we're back, and we can see that with this design, the 9 squares in the middle are covered up with tilled dirt, and this is because that if you want, especially the wheat, if you want wheat specifically, you need to make sure that this villager doesn't throw the stuff at this villager in the middle. And I've found the only way to do that is to make sure that he can't throw things at all. And so what you'll need under this design, which I haven't actually put in, is minecart rails and a minecart hopper running directly underneath these blocks here. Now I'm going to throw some beetroot seeds at this guy, and he's going to start planting these. When I finish that, and with the beetroot ones, the farmer can throw beetroot at this guy, and you can see, and the carrots are now there. You can see the farmer will. This design would work. This farmer would throw a beetroot into the center, but I found that with a bit of testing, if you come over here, that it did tend to leave quite a few seeds. You can see seeds there, and a few other bits and seeds there. So while he does pick up beetroot, and I believe at some point his inventory will be filled with 1 slot beetroot, 1 slot seeds, and what else? 1 slot seeds, and the rest of them are beetroot, and he'll eventually, of course, throw the beetroot in. I've found that it may be better to put a minecart hopper underneath so you can pick up the seeds, which of course you can then turn into bone meal using a composter. So that is the design for these two. The bread one is the same as this. You want to fill this villager's inventory fully with wheat seeds, so fully with this kind of seed, and he will start throwing bread at this guy. So bread, potatoes, carrots are this design, and beetroot and wheat and beetroot are in this design. This is the design I prefer to use anyway. So now I'm going to turn my attention to the split design, which is almost the same except for the layout of the composters. So I won't be running over the entire mechanics, just the bits that matter for the change. So it'll be over here with this design. So I'm going to get the composter set up, and I'm going to show you the exact bits. So let's just get our water bucket, our composter. So once again, you need to put the water in the same positions. And while I say that, the water is specifically placed as to make sure there's the fewest water sources, which are places that the villager cannot place. So, and we want to put the half slab on top to make sure the villager doesn't go up and down and potentially break the blocks. Now we want the composter in the middle over here, blocked off, so between these two slabs and one block further up, and we'll do the same here. Now, to split the design, we will once again put the 9 squares in the center and slot glass or whatever transparent, whatever block you want. Now I should say that the outside blocks do not have to be glass. I've just chosen glass to make it a little bit more obvious what's going on. And of course we put the fences in, if I can type correctly, fences. And once again, of course, this design can be copied without the fences in the middle, without this guy in the middle. We'll just do that, spawn a villager in. He's going to, of course, turn into a farmer, and I won't bother hoeing and all that. So it's basically the same design. You can fit, say, potatoes here, carrots here, or vice versa, whatever really you want. I've only tried with just carrots, but I believe this design can work either way. You do get reduced efficiency because there isn't so much being farmed, but you can fit 2 different crop farms. And I believe you could potentially try 4, which meaning you'd put the composter back onto the half slabs and the glass in here. But I tried that, and these farmer villagers would need to throw at basically here at the corner, and that tended to not work so well. So I would recommend only splitting this design in half instead of quarters. Now, what else do I need to do? Yeah, you can see this guy. You can see this guy has been hanging around here, but in the end, I believe he was just going to start hanging around everywhere. The composter, as you will know for the Village and Pillage update, is the block that forces the farmer to work as a farmer, and this guy seems to be returning to this composter. I'm not really sure why. I do believe he will eventually go everywhere, but that is a potential problem with this. Now, with the hoppers, you do need to make sure that you've got adequate protection, because I've been in this world for maybe about 10-20 minutes, I think, and it's already gotten this much. So, and that's only half as well, because you can see this farmer isn't working. You do want to make sure that these farms are not back to back. As you can see, this farmer over here, he's trying to get over to this beetroot block here, and he can't. He's just going to look at that. Now, I believe you can fix that with putting non-transparent blocks, say logs or something like that, in between, and that should fix the problem of being able to of the villager seeing a crop but not being able to harvest. So so that is for wheat, potatoes, carrots, bread, and beetroot. Now you can, of course, stack the design, and I'm just going to pop into a different world where the Terra Ventures Season 1 world. It's not actually it's not quite fixed up for Village and Pillage, but it's going to do to show you how to stack these things. So as you can see, the villager isn't actually farming, and I did try with beds and composters, but this block here is where the composter would go, and I believe it needs to be not covered. But anyway, you can see that these villagers are just standing right on top of each other, so as long as you put the center 9 squares on top of each other, then it should work. So if I was to throw some villager eggs down there, it's just going to drop straight down. So as they face this guy, they're going to drop some bone meal in, for example, whatever the case may be, and drop, and it's just going to drop down, and you can see I've got the minecart rails there, and the minecart hopper will be traveling back and forth collecting anything that goes in here. What I do have under these minecart rails here is hoppers, in order to take away the stuff into what I had as a sorting system. So this is the base design, and as you can see, it can be stacked, although I found that before the Village and Pillage, this thing was producing, I actually don't know how it's producing, because I never stayed in here for over an hour to check. And so if we come down here, I was constantly trading, and I think it can probably do maybe 9 stacks an hour. Don't quote me on that, because I have really no idea exactly how much it can do, and the Village and Pillage update may have changed that. One thing I also did in this specific design is to make sure that it's only 2.5 blocks tall instead of 3, to ensure that iron golems can't spawn in here and the villager can't jump up and down things. That was mainly, of course, before the Village and Pillage update came along, but it may still be good to put the light here, put the block like that, and I think now if I was to put a villager in here, let's just try. Pick up a villager, slot him in, and hopefully he turns into a... no? Well, yeah. Anyway, it should work as long as there's enough light. Let's just get rid of this guy and try again with a composter, because I've just been spawning him in, but this world I didn't really play much on in Village Pillage, so I've really no idea if it will work, if that guy will turn, but you could just make sure that the villager is a farmer anyway. Now, one thing you do want to make sure when you get farmer villagers is to make sure that their inventories are completely empty, otherwise they're going to start planting other things, and you might not want that to happen. Now I'm just going to pop straight back into the testing world. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've learned something. Let's just go over some of the things that we've learned that we would like to cover. So this design you'd like to use for the carrots, potatoes, and bread. And you need to make sure you've got 4 composters, 4 half slabs. Well, you don't really need the half slab, but 4 composters. Enough blocks, transparent or otherwise, to go around the 14 by 14 square you're going to have. And this design over here, you would have powered rail. You would have rail underneath with a minecart hopper, and the same 4 composters. This design over here can be specifically used for wheat and wheat and beetroot and their respective seeds. I suppose you could use this design for potatoes and carrots as well, and have the minecart hopper running underneath, because the villager would just, whenever he harvests, he would fill up his inventory to max, and eventually he's going to have leftover bits. But I believe that when he throws stuff, he's going to give you more than he would otherwise. Now, if you want to split the design, your best option is to go with this, so you only have 2 composters, the same 4 half slabs to cover the water sources, and some blocks going down the middle. I would think it's best if they're not transparent. I've once again just used transparent, so it's easier. And that way, any villager in here, if he sees something in there, he's not going to try and harvest that, and he can't get to it. But I believe that is the 3 designs. Now, of course, they're all stackable, and I would recommend 1.5. And so a 2.5 tall, so just like this, and then you can stack the next level directly on this. So the dirt can go on here. That's not what I want. I want dirt, and the dirt can just go on there, and so on and so forth. And so I believe that is all the tutorial has to teach you. If you do have any questions, pop them down in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer. And if you do like this design, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to keep watching out for my next tutorial, and of course my Terra Venture series, where I'll be shortly building this design, at least as a publication. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.